I'll admit, this movie grabbed me in the beginning, but it couldn't hold on. I know I am quite late to the game on this one. This movie is about 5 years old, I think. I'm speaking, of course, about Shadow in the Cloud starring Chloë Grace Moretz. I remember when this film came out and I was a bit interested in it. I never got around to watching it. And I think the reason why is because I detected there was kind of an undercurrent of it wasn't very good. But I recently decided to watch it because I wanted to watch a horror movie for the month of August to include in my list of horror movies to discuss on the Final Girls stream with Nadia and others. I started watching it and I was hooked right away just because, well, the intro to this movie, it's kind of mysterious and it's showing this woman. She's kind of like in army clothes. This takes place in World War II. Basically, the premise, I totally forgot to tell you the premise. It's about a World War II female pilot. She boards a B-17 with top secret documents. And while she's on this plane, she encounters something evil. It's a gremlin. Think that Twilight Zone episode with the gremlin outside on the wing. So this movie was pretty compelling in the beginning because it has this mysterious vibe. And something I really liked about the opening was it was playing like this 80s sort of synth music, almost horror-ish style of music. And what it reminded me of was John Carpenter. And the premise sounded interesting. So I was thinking to myself, surely this is not as bad as I was getting the impression that it was. Well, I was incorrect, but I'll get there in a minute. Basically, this is a one-woman performance because her character, Maud Garrett, which is funny because I know a real-life Maud Garrett. She's the lady who did the panel for Dungeon Crawler Carl at San Diego Comic-Con. Anyway, whatever. Maud Garrett spends most of her time in this, what is it they call it? It's is it called a ball turret? It's like this globe-shaped thing under a plane, and it's got a gun, and a gunner will go down in there, and that's where they'll be when they're firing on enemy aircraft and stuff like that. So she ends up being stuck down there for most of the film. So it's almost all her. The other actors who are other servicemen on the plane, you mostly hear their voices. Now, in the beginning, you do see them, you meet them and everything. Then she's down in the ball turret, and then you're hearing conversations between her and them, and she's spotted this gremlin, and she's trying to let them know. She's also spotted enemy aircraft, and they don't believe her for most of the film. And then at the end, as things are coming to the conclusion, you do see the men more. But I would say a good 60 or 70% of the film is just her inside this globe. Basically, there were some things that I felt were cons at first, or at least one thing that comes to mind, but that ended up being explained later by stuff that was revealed at the end. I'll give you an example. She has this top secret package. They call it documents, but it's really in this almost like this fat briefcase or something like sort of rectangular shaped. And she is forced into the ball turret, but she can't take the package with her. And I felt that for something that was supposedly so top secret, she gave it up a little bit too easily. However, by the end, that was really not so much of an issue anymore because, like I said, there's a plot point that explains that away. So I was okay with that. That was really not the main issue at all in this film. Sorry, my dog. Hold on. Come on, Levi. Over here. Okay, so where was I? Yes, I was saying that wasn't really the main problem with this movie for me. The problem with this movie, if you can't get this right, it's like the death knell for a film. The writing was a problem. Now, this film was, I wrote down who did the screenplay. The director, her name is Roseanne Liang, and she wrote the screenplay with Max Landis, who is the son of John Landis. In all honesty, the writing felt quite amateurish, and Moritz's character was written as a glaring Mary Sue. I mean, she was flawless. She was always competent. She was always right. She could do anything. She was a pilot. She was an engineer. She was a gunner. And she even had superhuman strength pretty much. I mean, it was super annoying. Oh, and she was the only one that could defeat this thing at the end. And it became apparent early on that this was going to be a problem when the men, almost all of the men in this movie, had just this hyperbolic level of hostility towards her. And instead of feeling like it was something organic, and I know this has been and can be and will be a thing between men and women at certain times, in this particular situation, it came across as heavy-handed. It came across as anti-male in tone. Almost all the men were complete assholes and idiots, and she was this perfect woman who just knew everything, and they just wouldn't listen to her, and they berated her, and oh my gosh, the stuff they said about her. It felt like this movie was more intent on messaging as opposed to balanced storytelling, or something that came across as believable or realistic or something that you could go with. I wasn't on board with the way those characters were written and the way they acted. There were also moments that were cringe, and I had to suspend way too much disbelief. There was a scene where she's crawling around outside the plane with gravity-defying strength. It was just, I just couldn't. I couldn't. Not only is she outside the plane, she's hanging upside down, crawling around. And then there's a moment where she's getting ready to engage in this fight, physical fight, and her sleeve is torn, but it's not impeding her in any way. It's torn. She rips it off before the fight in this dramatic moment. It's like, why? So we can see your very non-toned arms? I don't buy that you can do this thing that you're getting ready to do because you don't look like you've put in physical effort to get yourself into what looks like training shape. Why the hell are you ripping off your sleeve? It looks dumb. I don't know. It was just too much implausibility stacked right on top of another. The engineering, all this stuff she was doing in the ball turret, and the piloting, that too, the combat and the superhuman strength, and I couldn't. Moretz did okay in the role as far as how she performed it, but the writing was just did not hold up. And it kind of annoys me because it was an interesting setup, and I really liked that intro. Like I said, it just gave me all the warm, fuzzy vibes of an 80s horror with synth music and everything. John Carpenter specifically. Yeah, it was disappointing. And also another thing that was kind of disappointing, or it kind of felt a bit anticlimactic. When you find out what's in the package, it's like, oh, really? Okay. It didn't do anything for me like I think the writers were hoping that it would. Started with potential, but it lost steam pretty quickly for me. And this is not a long film. It's less than an hour and a half. It's probably 80 minutes. So a pretty quick watch if you're interested. I think it probably would have worked much better as a short film. But, ultimately it was just kind of laughable in too many places, despite the interesting idea that it started off with. One such example of certain moments in this ridiculous movie that were laughable. Just take a look at this scene. I think it's going to show up in the trailer, but I pulled this scene specifically to show to you. I mean, just look at this. The stuff that she can live through. It's amazing. It's just miraculous. Okay, back to the video. If you're curious about it, something like a period piece, and the thought of a gremlin on a fighter plane or a B-17, maybe check it out, but just go in prepared for some really lame writing and a glaring Mary Sue going on in this movie. Anyway, that's all I really have to say about Shadow in the Cloud. If you guys have seen it, Deleted Scene said when I posted my review on Critic List, oh, you should have told me. I could have warned you or something like that. And he said he'd done a review on it. Well, I didn't think to check with him, and I just was in the mood for a horror movie, and it was a fairly short one, and it did look interesting. But yeah, I probably should have checked around first with people I knew that had seen it. Okay, that's it for this one, you guys. Bye.